I don't know how to open this. Hey guys, Will here, and welcome to an Odd Ones Out style video of the story of me. So, who am I? My name is William. I am 17 years old and I live in Harmony, New Jersey. I was born on March 23rd in 2002 in the Easton Hospital in Pennsylvania while my parents were living in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. Then we moved to Pennsylvania. During my terrible twos, I was quite the feisty one, to say the least. Most of the time, whenever I had a temper tantrum or didn't get what I wanted, I would mainly just sit on the ground and be like a rock. When you would try and pick me up, feel like the end of the world, because like not even my mom could really pick me up when I was in that state. And I used to do that in preschool, and that ended up getting me kicked out of some of them. One of them was mainly because it was like a speech therapy kind of thing, because I wouldn't talk a lot at all when I was around 2 or 3 and my parents got worried. But whenever I did talk, I talked like Elmo. So I'd be all like, William wants this, William wants that, William's gonna go do this, can William do that? Yeah, quite embarrassing. That's the way I talked, and then I went to speech therapy, and of course, everyone can see how that changed. It was quite the change. Another reason I got kicked out of preschools was because generally, along with the temper tantrums, I would get into fights with kids. Like when I was in one preschool, I remember, for some reason, I really remember this, like imagery. I would be playing with the Legos, and then another kid would want to play with the Legos. And then I'd be like, no, I want to play with the Legos. And then I would fight them. And then my dad would walk into the room to pick me up. And this happened quite a number of times. So it ended up being that pretty much was the reason why I got kicked out of that school. But the last school I remember going to, I stayed until 3rd grade. Now, two funny stories actually when I was younger. I used to run away when I was a child, and one time I ran away because I was going to go eat lunch at the mess hall. I was going with my mom was holding my hand, and she said I couldn't go to the playground because we were going to go eat lunch, right? And then my mom, she wasn't looking. She lost her child because he slipped out of her hand. That's right, he slipped out of her hand, that being me, and I ended up running over to the playground. And mom was like, where's my child? And everyone started looking for the child, like left, right, and center. I pretty much was at the playground. My mom was like, after 5 minutes, was like, I know exactly where he is. They went over to the playground, they saw me there, and they brought me back to the mess hall so we could go eat lunch. That was definitely some times. There was also another time when I was probably younger than when I ran away. I was at my friend's house, and while my mom and her mom were talking, I ended up rubbing Vaseline all over myself. And my friend was like, Mrs. Laubach, your son is in Vaseline. Pretty much. Of course, not exactly like that, because she was little too. Basically what happened was that the parents had to replace the rug because of the Vaseline. And I ended up being, I would say, the first peanut butter baby, but with Vaseline. Yeah, that's something to think about. I was the first meme. Well, the first peanut butter baby meme. That's a thing. But yeah, that happened. Back to 3rd grade. I went to the school called ESCA. I stayed there until 3rd grade, but then the school ran into some financial problems. So it ended up being that we couldn't stay there anymore. So when 4th grade came around, we ended up doing homeschooling, we being my brother, my sister, and I. During 5th grade, I actually went to a homeschool group, which was a really nice experience. But I got to get out early because we were moving to New Jersey, to my grandparents' house, and I ended up getting out by April, so I was out from April to August, so that was a pretty long summer for me. Of course, good beginning portion of it was spent helping move over to our grandparents' house. But yeah, that's how you get out of school early, kids. Your parents decide they want to move to New Jersey, where I am now. As previously stated, my family started living in New Jersey with my grandparents until my parents could find a house, and that house ended up being in Belvedere. The thing was that the house was really ugly, it had a really ugly paint job, and it was really old, and the maintenance wasn't entirely that good. There were holes in the floors, the floor was all raggedy, and of course that's not really a actual word, I guess. I don't know if that's a dictionary word. But yeah, it was very broken up. It definitely needed maintenance, and the maintenance was never given. However, it was a double house, so we had next door neighbors literally across the wall, and that actually was where I started my YouTube channel. So yeah, I started with my friend that I made right next door. We made a bunch of videos. It was a good experience. Yeah, we ended up making a bunch of videos together, and we did a bunch of other things too. Of course, they moved out before us. They moved, I think, all the way down to Florida. I'm not too sure. They moved far away. And then, of course, we moved down to Lopat. But before we moved down to Lopat, while we were still in the Belvedere house, I started going to school in the school that's actually right next door to my high school, and that's called GSCA, Good Shepherd Christian Academy. Good Shepherd Christian Academy, even though it was a private school, it had the general school tropes. Like, for example, it had the bully, it had the friends, and it had the crushes, it had the drama. It had a lot of those things, to be quite frankly honest. It was quite the experience for me. There were a lot of problems, and it did hurt me mentally a good amount. It's made me who I am today, for better and for worse. So here's some stories that I'm gonna give. There's actually one time, and you can ask my friend, where we were in gym class and the kid stepped on a moth and killed it outside, and one of the girls picked it up and was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you killed it." And I'm sitting there talking, right? And while I'm talking, she throws the moth right in my general direction, and my mouth was open. So the moth ended up landing into my mouth. And I was sitting there for a good 2 or 3 minutes, not entirely choking, but trying to get a dead moth out of my mouth. And it was a terrible taste. And a couple of the kids there were sitting there laughing while really no one else noticed. Until finally, I got the saliva up to spit it out. I will tell you, it was a disgusting experience. Another story is that there was one time when we were in the middle of a car wash. We were doing an event to raise for our Washington, D.C. trip, and the kid who killed the moth sprayed water on one of the girls, and yeah, shirts and water for females don't mix, especially when the water is sprayed at you. So yeah, that's no. Speaking about the DC trip, we ended up going to Washington, D.C. for a whole week. It was a really nice experience. Of course, I've said that phrase a number of times. It truly was. I got to be together with people. I got to cooperate more with people that I didn't cooperate before I went over. And it was worth the effort, because we actually had to raise our own money. It's worth the effort that we put into trying to get it done. So I'm glad I got it. And for graduation, me and a friend of mine, we took the images that we took at the Washington, D.C. trip, and we put it into a music video kind of thing. And we displayed it there, and everyone liked it. It was a really nice video, and a lot of effort was put into it. And it was great. It was really nice. And then, of course, after middle school comes high school, and that's where I ended up going to my current school at WCTS. And there are many stories that I would like to tell about that, but we're actually running out of time for this episode, so time to finish it up. My family dynamic pretty much is we're all Christians. We all believe in the same God, and we believe in, of course, the Jesus Christ and his salvation. And by my family, I mean my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. My brother is the wacky one, my sister is the somewhat bossy one, and then my mom and dad are, of course, mom and dad. There's not really... Well, my mom likes to sing and my dad likes to work. Every year we go to this place called French Creek Bible Conference in the summer, and that's basically where we can learn more about the Word of God and be able to hang out with a lot more Christian people than we normally do and get to make more Christian friends, basically. It's really nice. It is really nice to be able to hang out with them and make new friends. As far as hobbies are concerned, I mean, I really don't have that many, but things I like to do are make videos, play video games. I actually do like to draw. I've made some pretty interesting drawings. Of course, a lot of people might disagree. I also have read a bunch. I've read a bunch of books, especially when I was just moving into New Jersey. I would read a whole lot of books. And I also like to hang out with friends. That's something that I feel helps me to develop as a person and preferably better. But yeah, I just like hanging out with my friends, playing video games, drawing, reading, getting work done whenever I can, or whenever I'm tasked to do it. So yeah, that is basically the story of me. So I hope you all did enjoy, and if you did, then yeah, just let me know. My life after that is pretty boring, so I'm sure you guys really want to hear too much about that. But I'm still developing as a human and as a person, so I hope to have many more adventures in the future. So yeah, goodbye.